Well, it is, things are moving rapidly, but there does continue to be a disconnect, David Ignatius.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let me go to Jonathan Lemire first, since he's White House reporter. There's still, Jonathan, this disconnect between what we're hearing from the scientists and what the President of the United States is saying. Remember, from the very beginning, you had the President saying that it was only a handful of people, 14, maybe 15, who would all be down to zero in a week. At the same time, the CDC was expressing real concern. Then the President talked about the coronavirus going away in April magically when things got warmer. He said it was going to go away magically. It was going to just disappear, while his scientists were again warning Americans. Yesterday, you had the President of the United States saying that it's all under control, while his scientists are all saying the same thing. It's going to get worse. We don't know how bad it's going to get. You even had some irresponsible members of Congress, remarkably enough, Republicans, of course, I've got to say that, sadly, as a former member, saying, oh, go out to your restaurants, go out to your one. I think Devin Nunes even said, go out to pubs. That is the worst actual advice I've heard since a monologue was put on a certain network suggesting that this was all a great hoax to take down the President of the United States. So you have the CDC, doctors, scientists, experts from across the world saying one thing, and then you have the President of the United States completely disconnected from his own staff saying quite another. What's going on inside of the White House? Talk about the battle, actually, for the heart and soul, not of the country, but of this administration.
Life has changed in America, and the president doesn't want to admit it, Joe. That's where we are right now, is that it is one thing for a commander-in-chief, for the executive of the United States, to preach calm, to be reassuring. That's okay. That's part of the job. But it's very different right now for the president, who seems to have, at least publicly, his head in the sand as to what is really happening. On Friday, after declaring the national emergency, which was a step that was needed, he was urged to do by members of both parties, including some of his closest advisors, he reluctantly got there because he was afraid that it would send a bad signal to the markets, acknowledging just the severity of this crisis. But when he did it, the markets responded well on Friday. They did. And he then proceeded to take a victory lap on Twitter about it. We saw him over the weekend appear into the White House briefing room twice, once Saturday, once Sunday. On Saturday, wearing another campaign hat, suggesting that this is all going to be over soon, that Americans, again, stay calm. That's the right thing to say. But to not acknowledge the severity of the crisis is very different. Within the White House, we've had a couple of different factions here. There is a growing sense among top advisors, including Vice President Pence, Dr. Fauci, and others, to be more candid about where things are going, to acknowledge the American people that things are going to get worse before it gets better. Others, including Jared Kushner, Stephen Miller, are focused more on trying to be more prop up the markets, to sort of downplay the severity of this incident, of the spread of this virus, even though we are seeing, of course, cases tick up day after day. The president and the vice president urged Americans not to make runs on grocery stores, saying just buy for the week ahead. Right. And we saw, of course, last night the CDC, against the backdrop of the Democratic debate, suggest that Americans should, for the next 8 weeks, should avoid gatherings of 50 or more. And that is going to be a thing that changes American life.
It will change American life, but there's not a scientist, there's not a doctor. I mean, I'm reading conservatives who have apologized for Donald Trump for 3.5 years when there was nothing left to defend, who are actually saying this is serious. Listen to the scientists. I'm seeing it on blog posts from pro-Trump people. I'm seeing it everywhere. And yet the President of the United States, David Ignatius, is still saying we've got this completely under control. It's going to be okay. Things are going to disappear. And David, here's the impact of it, okay? You're going to have Dr. Fauci and every other great scientist going out telling people the truth. But I'm still getting emails from friends of mine who support Donald Trump, who are saying, the president says this is overblown. I can still go about my daily life. You see pictures from Disney World last night, just shocking pictures from Disney World with thousands and thousands of people crammed together, packed like sardines on Main Street in Disney World. And you sit there thinking, how many people there? had the coronavirus and don't know about it? How many were they spread to? And how many seniors are now going to die in the state of Florida and across the nation because people like that would go last night say, well, the president says it's not much of a big deal.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Mil gracias por estar con nosotros. A esta hora se genera información desde Venezuela y es que se van a ofrecer declaraciones a partir de lo que sería la prensa nacional e internacional por parte del presidente de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro. Escuchemos entonces.
A toda la comunidad venezolana, a todo nuestro pueblo, a todas las familias. Hoy, domingo 15 de marzo, como ustedes saben, hemos estado haciendo seguimiento cercano a la pandemia del coronavirus en el mundo y a la evolución de esa pandemia en Venezuela. Ya en Venezuela, como ustedes saben, haciendo seguimiento de las medidas de prevención y detección, hemos localizado varios casos. Ya entró la pandemia del coronavirus a Venezuela, con casos que llegaron de Europa y de Cúcuta, de Colombia. Hemos estado tomando todas las medidas preventivas en unión perfecta, cívico, militar, policial, en los cuadrantes de paz a nivel nacional. El día de ayer y el día de hoy se hicieron ejercicios, escudos bolivarianos para atender los 46 hospitales centinelas. Se hicieron reuniones de coordinación con toda la Cámara de Clínicas y hospitales clínicos privados del país. Se hicieron reunión con todas las cámaras fabricantes de fármacos industriales del sector de medicamentos del país, haciendo los ajustes para nosotros enfrentar esta pandemia que ha entrado a Venezuela y que azota al mundo, que golpea terriblemente al mundo entero. Ayer se anunciaron, sábado, la detección de 8 casos que fueron explicados por el ministro Jorge Rodríguez. Hoy hemos detectado 7 casos más. 7 casos, todos de lo que se llaman casos importados. Llegados 4 de ellos de Europa. 1 de ellos de Cúcuta, el segundo caso de Cúcuta detectado, y otros casos de otros lugares del mundo, lo cual suma en Venezuela a 17 casos detectados y confirmados.
Now, around the world, tough measures are being imposed. Spain's 2-week state of emergency will mean strict restrictions on movement. France and Germany banned mass gatherings last week. Italy remains in complete lockdown, now reporting 21,000 cases. However, Britain is almost alone in not enacting any extreme measures, even as President Trump has added us to the list of countries now banned from travelling to America and is considering all options when it comes to domestic travel.
How do you stop something whose very nature means it must spread? Can you slow it down, contain it, before it overwhelms?
The UK is currently in containment phase for COVID-19. So, severe cases are hospitalised, contacts are traced, and anyone who has come into contact is supposed to self-isolate. The next phase is delay. Infections need to be staggered so the NHS isn't swamped.
The government will be announcing their detailed plans tomorrow, but healthcare leaders have described the scale of the challenge they face. There are already nearly 10,000 doctor and 40,000 nurse vacancies in the NHS in England. The government's contingency plans may include newly retired doctors and nurses being asked to return to the NHS.
I'm very concerned about the epidemiology of this illness, in that what we do know about it, it is more likely to affect those people who already have an underlying health condition, such as a lung condition, or are elderly and frail. And of course, doctors on the whole are retired because they're over 60 and they will be in that vulnerable group.
Health professionals may also have other care commitments, such as their own children. If schools close, then this could impact on the NHS. The UK currently has fewer acute beds relative to its population than almost any other comparable health system. This isn't literally physical beds, it's beds that are staffed properly.
So the NHS has a lower number of beds on average than many other European countries. It is important to understand the way in which healthcare is delivered. So a lot of healthcare in this country is delivered to people supported in their own homes. So bed numbers are not the only thing to consider. But it does mean that if we need to increase the number of people in hospitals at short notice, that could be more difficult. So we might have to take decisions like cancelling planned surgery, for example.
The wider picture in the NHS has been described by senior hospital medics as one of grave concern. They point to an already stretched system with high demand, and any further delay to planned procedures will have an impact on already lengthy waiting times. To help mitigate the impact on the NHS and stop the spread, official advice is to stay away and phone NHS 111.
There are concerns that there are very long waits for NHS 111. And what I heard today was that some call handlers who have been taught a new brief, because this is a message that is changing very rapidly, maybe not be necessarily instilling the sense of reassurance that people need. And I think it is up to us at the British Medical Association and our members to try and reassure you that the information that is being given by NHS 111 is up to date.
Hospitals can scale back the services they offer, but this isn't the case for social care, and it's not so clear-cut for general practice.
We've seen in recent months and years that the pressures in social care have meant that services are really focusing on people who are in the most severe need, and obviously that's quite hard to switch on and off. We can say that the NHS can stop doing things if necessary, but if social care services are short of staff and therefore have to stop providing care to people who are really in need, that could have quite a knock-on consequence for the health service. For GP practices, I think the challenge that they have there is that people quite rightly and understandably see the GP as their first port of call. So if GPs are taking a lot of calls or seeing a lot of people who are concerned they have coronavirus, then that might limit their capacity to see other people. And again, there could be a knock-on consequence for hospitals if people then turn up to the emergency department instead.
The NHS can be good at pulling together in a crisis, but to curb this spread will be costly, and no money has been promised yet.
Deborah Cohen there. No one from the government wanted to come on the programme tonight, but the Department of Health did tell us the UK is a world leader in preparing for and managing disease outbreaks, and our approach will be led by medical experts.